Welcome to Book Fairy's First Look. I'm your host, Micki Bare. Today, I am excited to introduce children's author and illustrator, Constance Lombardo. Constance began drawing when she was 10, inspired by the illustrator's annuals her dad brought home and by her sister doing a drawing and getting lots of attention. When she had her son and read her favorite picture books to him, she was motivated by that beautiful combination of words and pictures to create her own. Constance is the author-illustrator of 3 middle grade novels about Mr. Puffball, Stunt Cat to the Stars. Her picture books, Everybody Says Meow and Tiny Spoon versus Little Fork, illustrated by Dan and Jason, were chosen as Anna Dewdney Read Together Award honor books. Her latest picture book is Itty Bitty Betty Blob, illustrated by Micki Bare. Constance lives in Asheville with her family and Louie, the old beagle. Welcome, Constance. I am so excited to be talking with you today.
Oh, hi, Mickey. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here too. I love talking about books and talking about my new book, Betty.
Yay.
Itty Bitty Betty Blob. Yay.
Before we get started, let me tell everyone about your newest release, Itty Bitty Betty Blob. It is picture day at Monster School, and Itty Bitty Betty Blob sits in front of the mirror practicing her growls for the camera. But for Betty, it's not so easy. She's not a typical monster and would rather dance among the dandelions and revel at rainbows than act scary. So when mom hands her a perfectly horrible black dress to wear on picture day, Betty isn't sure. Of course, she wants to make mom happy, so she plans to look monstery. She even heads off to school with high hopes, ready to do her best. And that's when she discovers some adorable new friends who help her be totally Betty. It is such a cute book. I've really enjoyed reading it, and it has a wonderful message. What was your inspiration for this book?
Oh, thank you so much for your kind words, Mickey. Well, I think for me it was how do you bring together two things that are really don't go together? And I love thinking about picture day. I remember when I was a kid and how that was a very special time of getting dressed and getting mom to brush my hair. Maybe that part I didn't like as much, but yeah, how am I going to look for picture day? And then as a mom, also like, what do you want to wear today? And the pictures coming home and how fun that whole thing is. And that it's an experience that so many kids can relate to. And then, well, how do you make that different? Well, I also love thinking about monsters and especially sort of old monster movies, monster movies from maybe the 60s and 70s or even earlier. So bringing those together, and my original title was actually Picture Day at Monster School.
Aw.
So yeah, yeah.
So did you share any of that with the illustrator? Because I noticed like some of the pictures are kind of reminiscent of those old monster movie kind of characters.
He really got that, and I don't remember if I specifically said that to him. I feel like we were very simpatico
Yeah,
in
yeah.
terms, and we did have conversations, and I think that he kind of did that on his own, which is so perfect. And then on the last page, he does have a reference to Picture Day at Monster School, which I thought was really fun. So it was wonderful working with Micki Bare. He's just such a beautiful illustrator.
Oh, that's wonderful. So do you like monsters? And if so, which kind?
I definitely do not like monsters if
Oh,
they're scary. I don't like jump scares or anything like that, but I like monsters that are more sort of campy and goofy and cute. And to me, some of those old movies, like I watched the old Blob movie. It's
mhm.
just, I think it's just called The Blob with my kid when he was pretty little, and it's very silly. So I like thinking about that, or even like vampire in his less, like the older movies where he's not really so scary.
Mhm.
Yes, I do like those kinds of monsters. I do like blobs. I mean, it's such an odd thought of just like this something, the experiment went wrong in the lab, and now something comes oozing out of the lab. And that I just was watching some clips from it recently. Oh no, you know what I just watched actually was Monsters versus Alien,
Oh, yeah.
and there's a very cute blob in that movie. And they reference the old blob movie where the blob is coming out of the door and just sort of rolls out. So, yeah, I think monsters could be a way to just kind of explore your imagination and they're fun. Yeah, they can be fun.
So what's one takeaway that you would like the readers to get from your book?
Well, I've been talking a lot about monsters and picture day, but really at the center of the book is this character, Itty Bitty Betty Blob, and that's why we went with that as the title.
Mhm.
And she's someone who feels different, and I like to say feels rather than is, because I think many, if not everybody, has at least moments where they feel different and maybe they feel like they don't fit in or whatever. And so for me, it's kind of saying the part of the story is saying you are perfect as you are. And the most important thing that anyone can do is just to be themselves. And that's something that kids kind of have to go through and learn and realize that like who they are and celebrate their individuality. So that's what I would really like readers to get out of the story.
And it tells it so beautifully, and
Oh, thank
that's what
you.
I did enjoy that. So why do you write for young children? I know you have the middle grades and then the picture books. What is it about the young children's or, kid lit that you enjoy?
Yeah, when I first started writing, I really tried like all the genres, and I even did write a couple of young adult novels before realizing, like, I don't know, the whole teen years, they're so troubled in a way. I didn't really enjoy being there mentally and emotionally. And I have worked as a teacher's assistant, and I worked years ago in an elementary school where I worked with everyone from the kindergartners to the fifth graders. I enjoyed all the kids. But going into like the kindergarten, where the kids would come running over and give me a hug, and their minds are just so open, everything's new, learning to read. I just love that age. So I feel like also it just reflects kind of who I am inside, like my inner child. And I find now that when I visit classrooms, when I do go to the classrooms that are kindergarten, first, second, I those that's my tribe. I love being love being around the little kids. I get them. I think I get them. I enjoy that a lot.
So we talked about like the message and all of that, but there's the monsters and the differences and compare contrast you've got going on in there, but also humor. So is humor important to your writing?
It's very important. That's something I really strive for in all of my books. And I really, for example, in my Mr. Puffball books that you mentioned, I was really able to kind of go to town with all these cat puns and also referencing a lot of old movies because Mr. Puffball is a stunt cat and he is an aspiring actor. And I think sense of humor just reflects my personality again. Also, I do feel like children can be very burdened. I think especially in our contemporary times with the amount of work they have to do, the amount of testing they have to do, and there's a lot for them to deal with. So I love the idea of being that moment in their day that makes them smile and makes them laugh. And as I said, visiting classrooms, I visited more with Everybody Says Meow, and that always gets a laugh, and it's just such a satisfying feeling. I just enjoy comedy. I think it's a happier place to be.
Yeah,
So yeah.
it seems like you can not only write it, but that you are able to infuse it into, the storyline or whatever. I just think that's a pretty amazing talent because humor is difficult just to write, but to also to get it to kind of be part of the layers. I think that's really incredible, and it's kind of makes this particular book stand out. The Itty Bitty Betty Blob. I just it's very adorable.
Oh, thank you so much. And I feel like I again got really lucky with my illustrator because there's so many visual jokes in there that he kind of came up with on his own. And also, for example, I like to point out there's a page toward the end where the mom finally gets the picture and on the envelope from the school. Let me see if I can find it. Um, it says Schoolington Academy, a scary place to go to school. That was so good. And then she gets a magazine called Bitter Gnomes and Gardens. So yeah, we were a very good pairing.
Yep.
And I also want to point out as much I love this cover, and so that's so
Yeah.
so fabulous. And then if you take off the dust jacket, though, wow, there's
Nice.
something
That I
really
couldn't see yet.
fun.
That's beautiful.
And these characters are thank you. It
That is
really was beautifully. And, as you know, it's such a team working together, my editor, my art director, the artist, and yeah, it was a very collaborative process, and I'm just thrilled with the results.
so. Is there anything that you would want to say to aspiring author illustrators or writers of children's books that maybe just things that you've learned or to kind of keep them encouraged to keep moving forward with their work?
Yes. How much time do we have? I have so much to say.
Oh, go
But
for it.
really, I always tell people to join SCBWI, and it has been a huge part of my life. I think the opportunity to go to local conferences, go to the national conference if you can, and meet editors and meet agents and hear what they really have to say and network and all the information on the website. I learned so much just from being part of this organization. And the other thing for me was I'm actually right now in three different writers groups. And my oldest one is a group called Secret Gardeners that I started 18 years ago. And wow, we're such a tight group. And hearing other people give you feedback about your work is just invaluable. And not only do we offer so much feedback and critique and ideas for developing a story or making a story stronger, we also are just such a support group for each other. Last night I had one of my book launches at Malaprop's bookstore, and most of my group showed up, and it just is such a wonderful feeling. And you always hear persistence is key. That cannot be overstated. It took me 10 years of writing a lot and submitting a lot and going to these conferences before I got my wonderful agent. So yeah, stick with it. And I think also be flexible, try different things, see until you really find like what your voice is and what your genre is. Like, as I said, I had to write a couple of YA novels for before I was able to say that that's not me.
Hmm.
And yeah, it takes a while as a writer you kind of have to teach yourself all over again when you're learning a skill like that.
Yep. That is such excellent advice. I actually
So
hear
thank
so
you.
much from the SCBWI Carolina's critique groups. They're the ones that have been together for a long time. Several members, if not all, typically end up getting published at some point. And so you see that growth over time. And it's because of all those things that you said, the networking, the learning, the persistence, the flexibility, and then getting that feedback and doing something with it. And it does work and you'll get there. So that's wonderful.
Yes, you'll get there. And another thing I've noticed from being in these groups is so many of these, I'm in groups with women primarily, and so much talent, so many wonderful original ideas, and people will submit excellent manuscripts and get a lot of interest and still not get published. And so another important thing I think to keep in mind is if you get rejections, and you're going to, it doesn't mean you're not good enough.
Right.
Everyone goes through it, everyone. And it's just a combination of sticking with it,
Mhm.
honing the craft, um, and being a kind of resilient. You do need that. And just finding the right person at the right time who's
Okay.
looking for your manuscript.
Yes, that is very excellent advice. I couldn't have said it better. So look, I've noticed some author events coming up. How can parents, librarians, teachers, others stay in contact and up to date with your events and your books and everything you're doing?
Oh, thank you for asking. I do have a website, and it's just constancelombardo.com. I post a lot on Instagram, and I'm always sure to post all the upcoming events. And that is Con Lombardo Writes. And I'm also on Facebook as Constance Lombardo. So please feel free to follow me on those social media sites. I know there's so many out there, but that's kind of what I've stuck with.
Yeah,
So yes, thank you.
perfect.
I'm
Well,
out there. I'm easy to find because I have an unusual name too.
oh, yep, yep, comes right up. Thank you so much for joining me today, Constance, and congratulations again on the release of Itty Bitty Betty Blob.
Oh, Mickey, thank you so much. That was really fun. I greatly enjoyed it. I hope people will enjoy Itty Bitty Betty Blob.